Well, it's been a pretty impressive team performance from Pitt so far through 3 games. But, of course, that team performance has been powered and fueled by individual performances. And as such, I thought we could talk a little bit about individual players today on the Morning Pitt. Who are the top 5 players on the team? It's something we ask on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com every Monday, or at least we have for the basketball Mondays. How would you rank your top 5 players on the team? On the whole season, obviously it's going to be heavily influenced by the most recent game, but on the whole season, how would you rank your top 5 players on the team? We've asked that question the last couple of weeks. It's been interesting to see those rankings develop and evolve. People have different ideas as each game passes. Certainly, I think the top 5 ranking right now is different than what it would have been if we had asked you that question in August. But since it generated interesting conversation on the message boards, I thought this would be a good chance to bring the conversation here to the Morning Pitt. And I will give you my ranking of the top 5 players on Pitt's roster. And spoiler alert, it's going to be like 9 guys, because it's really hard to narrow down to just 5 right now with how some guys are playing. There's a few tier 2 options that are just outside that top 5 that I just can't avoid, and in some cases I might just have to invent a player in order to get everyone I want to recognize onto this top 5. So who are the top 5 players on Pitt's roster through 3 games? Who have been Pitt's 5 best players so far this season, powering the Panthers' 3-0 start? Let's give you the top 5 ranking right here on the Morning Pitt, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Yeah, it's a Tuesday edition of the Morning Pitt, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Moving through the week here, post-West Virginia, pre-Youngstown State, heading up to a final game of the non-conference schedule for Pitt, final game before the off week that precedes the dive into ACC play. Really kind of a break in the schedule here after this game on coming up on this Saturday. Obviously, the West Virginia game put them past the quarter pole of the season, 3 games down, 9 to go. This game will be number 4, and this will be a third of the way through the season. Kind of feels like it's flying by, but also, each week seems to go to it feels like it's flying by, but it also doesn't. On one hand, the Kent State game feels like it was a really long time ago, and here we are. It's only 3 games in, so lots of football left to play, lots to talk about with this team, but I thought today we could dive into some of this individual accolades. Speaking of individual accolades, Pitt had 3 players make the cut for ACC Weekly Honor Roll, announced yesterday. Eli Holstein was named the quarterback of the week and the rookie of the week. I think it's the 3rd consecutive week that he's been the rookie of the week. Eli Holstein is just cleaning up on the rookie of the week honors this season. And then Kyle Lewis was named linebacker of the week. Donovan McMillan was named defensive back of the week. So it's, you get a win like West Virginia, you have a game like that, you're going to have some accolades, and they've gotten accolades every week. Like I say, Eli Holstein's been the rookie of the week multiple times. Every week of the season so far. Desmond Reed has gotten some honors. I think Kanate Mumfield got an ACC receiver of the week last week. So Pitt is getting recognized for its performances because, as I say, they've been sort of powered by these individual performances, guys making big individual plays. This is it's a team first, of course, and obviously football is a team sport, but some individuals are really stepping up for Pitt so far this season, and that's why I thought it would be fun to break down the top 5 players here on this Tuesday edition of the Morning Pitt. As we always ask you to do, like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That way you don't miss any of our Pitt video content, whether it's these Morning Pitt videos every day of the week, Monday through Friday. It's our live shows like we do tomorrow night at 8:30 or Saturday after the game. We have live shows. The weekly show is just kind of a general topics, conversation type of thing. The post-game show is obviously a post-game show, and those are a lot of fun to do. We always get a good crowd for those, and we like when everybody joins in during the Panther-Lair postgame, and it happens right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you won't miss any of those things. And then, of course, check out the website, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com for all of the Pitt coverage. Everything you can possibly handle, it's right there, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com, and message boards to talk with other Pitt fans. Conversation is always lively. Panther-Lair.com. And that's certainly the case right now with your Panthers 3-0. Like I said, we started a thread yesterday, did it for the last couple of weeks of ranking the top 5 players on the team. I didn't put my ranking in there. I've had to really sort of think about it for a little bit. And after thinking about it for a little bit, I think I have my top 5, but it's tough. I think like I could come up with legitimately about 9 guys, or maybe 8 guys who deserve to be ranked in the top 5. And even then I'd have guys that are just barely off the list. Like, I don't think so. What I have 4 that I think are clearly in the top 4 right now with how they're playing. And then I have about 4 other guys that I think I would put in the conversation, for that 5th spot. I know not everyone's going to agree about these, and that's kind of the fun of it, is having these disagreements and different opinions on these things. So make sure you post your top 5 players either in the comments here or on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com. We'll have a conversation there about it. For that 5th spot, like I say, I have about 4 guys in competition here, and I got to tell you, one guy, and it's hard to keep him out of the top 5. And I think in a lot of other situations or instances, I think he would be a lock for the top 5. But because there are so many exceptional players on offense and defense, it's hard for me to go and put a kicker in the top 5. But Ben Sauls has been perfect. 6 of 6 on field goals so far, 2 of 2 from outside 50 yards. He made a 50-yarder against Kent State, a 53-yarder at Cincinnati. He made a 47-yard kick at Cincinnati, and then he's 3 of 3 between the 30 to 39 range. He kicked one from 39 against Kent State, 35 2 weeks ago at Cincinnati, and then he had a 31-yard field goal against West Virginia. And he's been perfect. And I don't suspect he's going to be perfect all season. I'm sure that's his goal, but I suspect he'll miss one at some point. But he hasn't missed one yet, and he's really reliable. And I think if your drive happens to stall at the 30. And really maybe out to the 35 or so, because he's already made one from 53. The Cincinnati game, he kicked one from 53. So if the drive stalls at the 35, you can feel confident sending Ben Sauls out there, and you're probably going to get 3 points out of it. If you're driving and you reach the 35, maybe the 36 or 37, you can feel like, okay, well, we got 3 points. Let's try and get 7, but we feel like we got 3. It's a security blanket, but it's also just it's good to have that there. It shouldn't cause you to play any differently. It shouldn't cause you to approach your offense any differently. If you feel like you have a chance to go for the end zone, you should go for the end zone and try and score touchdowns. But knowing that Sauls is waiting there to come out and make those kicks, I think that's huge. And I think that goes a long way to the confidence of the team, confidence of the offense, and just overall confidence for everyone heading into games. So I mean, Ben Sauls. Like, there's so many exceptional players right now on offense and defense who deserve individual recognition that I can't put Sauls in the top 5, but I should. I want to, because I think he's been that good. In terms of how good guys are at their individual position, if we rate them sort of relative to their own position, like, I don't know if anyone is as exceptional at his particular job as Ben Sauls is at his. So if we were ranking it that way, then we might put Sauls number 1. But we're kind of ranking it like on overall impact on the team. And Saul's impact is huge, but I can't put him in the top 5. I feel similarly in a different way about Konate Mumfield. I want to put Konate Mumfield in the top 5. I think he's been outstanding so far this season. 16 catches, 255 yards, averaging almost 16 yards per catch, 85 yards per game. He's got 3 touchdown catches. He's been outstanding. I think Konate Mumfield, I've said this a bunch of times. I said it last week. I said it after the game on Saturday. I said it yesterday. Like, I feel like Konate Mumfield is finally having that season. And we talked about it last week. I asked him about it last week. Jim wrote an article on it last week. Like, I feel like Konate Mumfield is finally having that season he came to Pitt to have. He wanted to come to Pitt and have that big season on the big stage, and he's doing it. It's finally coming together for him. And it didn't for the last 2 years, partially due to quarterback play, partially due to the offensive scheme. But now the quarterback's right, the offense is right, and Konate Mumfield is producing at a really high level. And I think it's sort of a testament to Konate Mumfield that, like, Kenny Johnson's playing really well. Kenny Johnson looks like he's going to be, pretty close to the stud that people expected him to be, based on just a few flashy splash plays last year. I think he's well on his way to that. 12 catches, 184 yards, a touchdown. He's playing well, but he's getting outplayed by Konate Mumfield, who he's making consistent plays. He's reliable, and he's also coming up big in the final drives. Like these last two games with these, game-winning drives, he has come up with some huge catches. He had a 38-yard touchdown catch in the fourth quarter at Cincinnati. I thought he had one more that was big in that game. I guess that was the big one. And then he had a 23-yard catch on the game-winning drive. Oh, he had an 11-yard catch on the first touchdown drive against West Virginia in the fourth quarter, and then a 23-yard catch on the game-winning drive against West Virginia. So he's been a big part of those comebacks, and I think he's just playing really, really well. I just can't quite crack him into the top 5. And if I could put him in the top 5, it might just be at 5. But I don't know if I could put him ahead of, say, okay, I want to put him ahead of Ben Sauls, but could I put him ahead of Donovan McMillan? Because McMillan is on my number 5 watch list. McMillan is one of these guys who, for me, I think he's been really good this year. He's Pitt's leading tackler. He's got, I just had it open, but I scrolled away to look at Konate Mumfield's stats. He's got 32 tackles so far. He's got an interception, broke up a couple passes, forced a fumble in the West Virginia game that Pitt did not recover, but still forced the fumble. He's been really good. I think he's lived up to what you expect him to be. He's 32 tackles through 3 games. I don't need to get out the calculator to figure out that's about 120 tackles on the season if he keeps up that pace. I don't think he will keep up that pace because I don't think the other, well, at least after Youngstown State, I don't know if the other 8 teams will run the ball as much as Cincinnati and West Virginia did, which I think a heavy rushing attack will lend itself to that position that McMillan plays, getting a lot of tackles. But I think he's still got a great chance to get 100 tackles or get very close to it if he doesn't quite crack 100. I think he's been really good, but I can't put him ahead of the 4 guys I have locked in at spots 1 through 4. And so it's a question of, does he go in at number 5? So do you put Donovan McMillan or Konate Mumfield at number 5? Who's had the better season? Because I think they've both been really good. And I think maybe I'm leaning a little bit toward Mumfield, if only because of the plays he's made on these game-winning drives in the last 2 weeks, where he's really come up huge. So I have a hard time there. I tell you what, I think Brandon George has a case too. I probably would pick McMillan or Mumfield over him, but I think Brandon George is having the best season of his career. He's got 20 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss. He's got an interception, fumble recovery, recovered the block punt and took it back for a touchdown. I think Brandon George is finally being the kind of player that Pitt has wanted him to be for years. And he's been behind other guys like Servassier Dennis or Shane Simon. But now, it's really his time. And I think he's living up to it. And I think he's playing really well, making good tackles, being really reliable. I think he leads, he's second on the team in unassisted tackles, solo tackles. McMillan has 16. George has, or no, excuse me, I was reading the wrong stat. George has 3 solo tackles, 17 assisted tackles. So I would put him probably a little bit below Mumfield and McMillan, but I think you could make a case. My ideal number 5 on this list, honestly, if we're talking about the top 5 players, my ideal number 5 would be like this hybrid super linebacker I invented named Kybrandteam by Georgius. Kybrandteam by Georgius. That's it. Kybrandteam by Georgius. His last name is so hard to say. If I could put those 3 guys together, it would definitely be one of the 5 best players on the team. But the linebackers almost cancel themselves out. They almost cancel each other out because they're so good. They've been so good this year. They've lived up to the hype and exceeded it, I think, that they have to be in that top 5. But I can't put all of them in the top 5. I want to make just this super linebacker, but I can't do that. So I think those guys, for me, Sauls, Mumfield, McMillan, George, are in competition for that 5th spot on my list of the top 5 players on the team. And I probably, if I narrow it down, it'd probably be Mumfield or McMillan. I have a hard time picking between those 2. Number 4 on my list, though, and I feel pretty confident about this one, is Rasheem Biles. Rasheem Biles is the guy who is second on the team in solo tackles. He's third in total tackles with 25. He leads Pitt with tackles for loss with 5. He's got 2.5 sacks, which is second on the team behind Nate Matlack, who's got 3. He's got a pass breakup. He's got 15 solo tackles, which are the second most on the team. And I mean, he has lived up to the expectations. And obviously he's not the only linebacker who's going to be in this list, who I would say has lived up to the expectations. But I think Rasheem Biles, who we hyped up a lot this offseason, I hyped all the outside linebackers. So I threw like 4 darts, hoping one of them would hit, and a bunch of them have. And Rasheem Biles is certainly one. And what's remarkable about Rasheem Biles, too, is I would say game 1 to game 2 to game 3, he has gotten progressively better. He's made a bigger impact each week, which is pretty remarkable. You know, it's not just like, well, he's been at this level all 3 games. He's continued to work him to do more and more. And he ended up getting the start against West Virginia and played a great game in that one. He had 12 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a pass breakup. I mean, just outstanding. He was second on the team in tackles. 2 other guys were tied with 13 tackles, but Biles had 12. He led the team in solo tackles with 8. I just played a great game, you know, and I think he's getting more and more comfortable out there, doing more and more good things, and just playing really well. Number 3, and this is probably a drop from last week. I probably would have had him at number 2 or maybe even number 1 after last week's game. I drop him a spot, and it's good that he popped up on the screen. It's just Desmond Reed. Desmond Reed had his quiet game this past week when he only had 76 all-purpose yards. He had 26 rushing yards and 50 receiving yards. But in his quiet game, he scored 2 touchdowns. You know, after his quiet game, he's still tied for second in the nation in all-purpose yards per game. He's still out there with 319 rushing yards through 3 games. He's also got, he's second on the team with 13 receptions. He's got 167 receiving yards. He's scored 5 touchdowns, which is more than anybody else on the team. I mean, he is playing at a really high level. He's been really good. Leads the team in all-purpose yards by almost 200. He's averaging 188 all-purpose yards per game. Desmond Reed's been really good, and I still think he's one of the best players on the team. Even if the running game got bottled up a little bit against West Virginia, I would expect Pitt to be able to go out and run the ball better against Youngstown State than they did against West Virginia. I think Reed, if he plays, which as I've said, I wouldn't play him this week, but if he plays, I think he should be able to go off and get some big plays. Ideally you give him the ball just like 3 times in the first half and he gets 92 yards on those 3 carries and then 2 touchdowns and you don't have to play him anymore. Okay? Do that. And take him out and don't play him for the final 3 quarters. That would be the ideal scenario if you're actually going to put him on the field at all. But I would put Desmond Reed at number 3. Like I say, he probably would have been number 2 or number 1. Probably number 1, actually. After the Cincinnati game, I bump him down a little bit after the West Virginia game, partially because his production fell, even though he still scored 2 touchdowns, and partially because these 2 guys at 1 and 2, I don't know how you can hold them out. Number 2. So first of all, you probably have already guessed which 2 guys are in this top 2. And it's hard to go back and forth between these 2. I put Eli Holstein at number 2. And by the slimmest of margins. Because Eli Holstein right now, I mean, he's got the stats. I mean, there's all these numbers that I think are all the numbers. 939 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's completing 68% of his passes. He's 3 300-yard games, 3 touchdown games, and just all the heroics in the fourth quarter over the last 2 games. I mean, we've talked about it at length. The stats. Fourth quarter in the last 2 games, 15 of 17 for 289 and 3 touchdowns, no picks. A perfect passer rating, 88% completions. I mean, he has been literally perfect in the last 2 games in the fourth quarter. He rushed 7 times for 62 yards also. How can I, because when it was one game, when it was the Cincinnati game, you said, okay, that was impressive. I'm still not going to put him above Desmond Reed or this or that. but that was impressive. Now doing it 2 games in a row, and he's got the stats to back it up. He's put the team on his back. He's carried them down the field for game-winning drives, multiple game-winning drives to overcome double-digit deficits in the fourth quarter each of the last 2 weeks. Like, how can he not be in the top 2? And as I'm sitting here talking about it, I'm thinking to myself, I really should have put him number 1. Because you have a quarterback who carries a team like that, he should be number 1. But I gotta, at least for now, for this week, and this could change as soon as next week, but this week, I have to defer to Kyle Lewis. 27 tackles, second on the team with tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 interception, a bunch of quarterback hurries, a pass breakup, and just generally being all over the field. I mean, explosive. Shot out of a cannon, all over the field. He's flying around. He's making plays. He gets to the ball. And like, you know what's interesting? He just always, every time there's a play, number 9 is around the ball. And there was a play that Jim actually tweeted out, a video of it. I think it was from West Virginia's first drive. It was a 3rd and 3 on their first drive. And he makes just this amazing play. Gets to the line of scrimmage, reads the play, chases the running back down, running laterally, makes a great tackle to save a first down. You know, to keep West Virginia from gaining a first down and forcing a punt. And it was just, it's the kind of play that, like, you need all elements. Like, you have to be smart. You have to know football. Your football IQ and your preparation have to be there. You have to be able to read and react quickly. And some of that's going to come back to the preparation and the football IQ. But, I mean, you have to be able to see things, process the information quickly, and go. So you have the preparation, you have the sort of live mental activity, and then the speed and explosiveness and athleticism to get out there and make that play. Like, Kyle Lewis is playing at a really, really high level right now. And all these guys are. Eli Holstein playing at a really high level right now. Desmond Reed, despite his quiet day, really high level. Rasheem Biles is playing at a really high level. McMillan and George and Mumfield and Salt, like, all these guys are playing at a really high level. But I think Lewis might be playing at the highest level of all. He came off the field for, I believe, 1 snap in the West Virginia game, and that was only because he got hurt on the play before. And he wasn't so hurt that he couldn't come back in. He was hurt and he went down, so they stopped the clock. So he has to come out for 1 snap. Or else I don't think he would have left the field. Brandon George never left the field for a single snap in the West Virginia game. Kyle Lewis would have been the same if he didn't get hurt for that one play. I think he's, through 3 games, he has been Pitt's best player. And like I say, a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, probably not 2 weeks from now because that'll be after an off week and nothing should change after an off week. But a week from now or 3 weeks from now, maybe we'll say something different. Maybe Holstein will pass him. Maybe Reed will climb back up to the top spot. Maybe Mumfield makes a put, whatever it may be. But for right now, for my money, there's nobody on this team that is playing better and more consistently, more explosively, and making a bigger impact than Kyle Lewis. I think he's just playing at that high of a level. And you know what? As I was saying, guys who might pass him, Rasheem Biles might pass him in a week or in 3 weeks. But for right now, I think it's Kyle Lewis. And is this my victory lap because I spent all offseason hyping Kyle Lewis? Yes, partially, because last season I ate a lot of crap about hyping Bengali Kamara all offseason, and he didn't really do much. So when you get one right, you gotta soak it in. You have to live in it. You enjoy it. You send off the laser show, because why wouldn't you, right? When you finally get one right. What's the fireworks? Is it double peace signs? No, that's confetti. Is it double thumbs up? There it is. I got one right. But look, I think Kyle Lewis is playing really well. What's your top 5? Put it here in the comments on YouTube or on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com, or tweet it to me or email me, or if you see me on the street, just stop me and tell me your top 5. I'm curious to know, would you put Holstein number 1? Do you still have Desmond Reed number 1? You agree with me about Kyle Lewis? Do you think Biles is miles ahead? Oh, geez. I just said Biles is miles ahead. Do you think Mumfield should be in there? What's your top 5 of the current Pitt players who have been Pitt's 5 best players on the roster this season? I'd like to hear what you think. You got my list. and I'd like to see yours. In the meantime, like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That way you don't miss any of our Pitt video content. And check out the website, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com to get all of our Pitt coverage. And go to the message boards where people are already talking about their top 5 rankings, and you can join that conversation as well. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We really appreciate it. Hope you have had a great Monday. Your week's off to a great start. And have a great Tuesday. Like and subscribe. We'll catch up with you tomorrow morning for the Morning Pit right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.